Hello, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel is accusing Hamas of misusing UN funds. An Israeli judoka makes history at the Olympics, and an Israeli science professor reveals a low-tech invention that could change the world. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. For the second time this week, the Israeli government is accusing Hamas of misusing international aid to enhance its military wing. Only this time, the funds in question are coming from the United Nations. Israel is claiming that Hamas militants have been siphoning off UN aid meant for Palestinian civilians. And the accusation comes just days after Israeli security forces discovered that a representative from the US-based charity World Vision had been funneling millions of dollars to Hamas militants in Gaza.
This is the second time in a week in which Israel has uncovered and exposed the fact that Hamas operatives systematically infiltrated so-called aid organizations and humanitarian organizations. And what's so cynical and disgusting here is that money and support that was intended for people who really needed it, the children and the elderly, people whose homes were destroyed, instead of this money going to help people, Hamas diverted it in order to build a war machine, to kill Israeli civilians, to continue a war. It's hard to think of a more disgusting and outrageous misuse of funds than this.
Now Israel has gone public with the arrest of Wahid Abdallah al-Bush, a Palestinian engineer with the United Nations Development Program. Bush has reportedly confessed to being recruited in 2014 to help Hamas, using UNDP resources to build up the Islamist terror group's military power. The Palestinian engineer allegedly used UN funds to help build a maritime jetty for Hamas fighters, and he even persuaded his UNDP superiors to prioritize the neighborhoods of Hamas operatives when deciding where to spend money for reconstruction in Gaza. Hamas is dismissing the Israeli allegations as false and claiming that they're simply a bid by the Jewish state to control the Gaza Strip.
الادعاءات الإسرائيلية حول وجود تسريبات مالية من مؤسسة UNDP لصالح حركة حماس هي ادعاءات باطلة لا أساس لها من الصحة، وهي تأتي في سياق مخطط إسرائيلي منظم للتضييق على المؤسسات الدولية الإغاثية في قطاع غزة لتجديد الحصار المفروض على القطاع. نحن في حركة حماس نحذر الاحتلال من الاستمرار في هذه السياسة، وندعو المجتمع الدولي إلى تحمل مسؤولياته لمنع الاحتلال من مواصلة ذلك.
It's not yet clear how Bush will plead to the charges against him, and the UNDP has not yet commented on Israel's accusations. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has informed the UN Secretary General's office about the incident, and is reportedly expecting the UN to condemn Hamas's alleged use of the Gaza aid system to build up its military. Last week, Israel indicted a senior Palestinian staffer with the US-based charity World Vision, who confessed to funneling over $7 million a year to Hamas fighters. At the time, the UN coordinator for humanitarian aid and development activities in the Palestinian territories voiced alarm, saying Gaza's citizens deserve so much better. The wait is finally over. After 8 years, we have some exciting news for the Israeli sports world. Israel has just won its first Olympic medal since 2008 after Israeli judoka Yarden Gerbi took home a bronze medal yesterday at the Rio Games. 27-year-old Gerbi defeated Japan's Miko Tashiru in the under 63-kilogram judoka competition yesterday, overcoming an early loss. Her exciting win gives a boost to the morale of the entire Israeli delegation, after 4 Israeli athletes were knocked out of the game. The star judoka is now the 7th Israeli athlete in history to be honored on the Olympic podium, and is just the second woman to do so. Earlier in the day, Gerbi's hopes of winning a gold or silver medal were ruined after she was knocked out of the quarterfinals by Brazil's Mariana Silva. But Gerbi didn't let the loss knock the wind out of her, and she beat out 1 Chinese and 1 Japanese competitor to take home the bronze. She's not the only one celebrating either. Immediately after her win, she received a special call from Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, who called her a champion and Israel's hero. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu even tweeted in her honor. After her victory, an emotional Gerbi told the media that her dream has come true to not only win at the Olympics, but to also change stereotypes about Israeli sports. She said, quote, "They say Israelis don't have the character to succeed in sports, but we do have the character. I gave my life, it paid off. Whoever says Israelis can't succeed is wrong, it does happen." The Impact SE research and policy organization monitors education ministries across the world to determine whether or not they're complying with international standards on peace and tolerance. The institute just issued a report called Iranian Education: The Continuous Revolution, which reveals extremely disturbing data on what children in Iran are being taught about Israel. ILTV's Aaron Viner sat down with the author of the report, Dr. Eldad Pardo, to hear about his findings.
There is something extremely troubling in one of the books, a new book that just came out for the coming year. There is a picture of Ayatollah Khomeini, the founding father of the revolution, and he's quoted with his picture and picture of Palestinian children harassing Israeli soldiers who ran away. It says Israel should be destroyed or wiped off the map. And this is the first time. We heard a lot of these kind of declarations from Ahmadinejad at the time and from Khamenei and all the leaders. But in a research that I did, especially for this with a very sophisticated computer methodology, I found that there was a difference between the declarations and the school textbooks. School textbooks were anti-Israel, but somewhat more moderate until now. Now there is an escalation. They put the most disastrous genocidal propaganda in the textbooks. Destroy Israel. How can you teach third grade children to destroy another nation? Even in Iran, this was not, didn't occur until recently. So it means that Iran is educating their people for a big war just over the horizon.
What kind of an impact has the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the nuclear deal, had on Iranian attitudes toward the West in general?
As far as we see from the school textbooks, there is really very little difference. Generally, Iran continues to educate their children, their next generation, their future leadership, that there is a global war going on between the arrogant forces led by the United States and controlled by some kind of Zionist elements hidden somewhere, and the world of the good, the Muslims led by Iran. And they still have all these conspiracy theories around the curriculum. Now, we have to understand that the methodology that we developed at Impact SE includes trying to find strategic analysis from the textbooks. And we have a lot of experience that there is direct relation between what people were taught, let's say in the 90s and after the year 2000, the first decade, and what happened later. What you teach today, 20 years down the road, will happen. Because you teach a whole generation. So Iran still teaches its people for a coming war, for expansionism, and this is something that should be really taken seriously.
What kind of a reaction are you getting from your report?
Well, we had very good reactions, particularly from experts, diplomats. We had an editorial item at the Wall Street Journal, which was very important, particularly because there's not so much coverage about the Iran issue in general nowadays because of the elections and other items, but the experts read it, and there are a lot of troubling issues in the report.
Dr. Pardo, thank you very much for speaking to ILTV today and for sharing your insight with us.
Israel has long been at the forefront of innovative medical research, and now one Israeli company has found a way to improve chemotherapy treatments for cancer. Joining us today in the studio is Dr. Liat Fleischon from Biosite. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for asking me to come.
So to begin, what is Biosite? Tell us about the work that you guys do.
Okay, Biosite is a clinical stage, Israeli-based biotech startup company that was founded in 2000 by Dr. Stella Gangrinovich. And this company is aiming to address the unmet need of cytotoxic drug or chemotherapy drug toxicity.
Interesting.
And actually we have a platform, the proprietary platform of the company is enabling us to design and synthesize prodrugs that can answer this unmet need of chemotherapy toxicity.
So let's break this down into some easier terms. What is a drug that you guys are offering and who is it for?
Okay, our leading product is called Astarabine and it's for hematological malignancies. We are aiming this drug, it's built like a prodrug from other chemotherapy, which is a very effective chemotherapy for these hematological malignancies. However, it is very toxic and therefore cannot be administered to all the patients or patients with other diseases or patients which are frail. And therefore, we hope that using our drug, which is targeted to the malignant cells and not for the normal tissues, they can be treated with this drug without the toxicity of the drug. Because every chemotherapy actually works by targeting both malignant cells and normal tissues. And by doing that, then you get the toxicities of the drug.
Right, which are the terrible side effects that people experience.
Exactly.
Right.
So our drug is a product that is like a missile targeted to the malignant cells, avoiding and sparing the normal tissue.
So in other words, you know, somebody, if you have, and can you explain which exact cancers this targets?
Mm-hmm. It targets specifically acute myelocytic leukemia and acute lymphocytic leukemia.
Okay. So if you have this cancer and you're taking chemotherapy, what can often happen is negative side effects due to the chemotherapy because they're killing not only malignant cells but also positive cells that your body needs.
Exactly.
And so what you're offering is essentially a treatment that will only target the bad cells.
Mostly the bad cells.
Mostly the bad cells.
And therefore, specific population like elderly populations that cannot be treated currently with this chemotherapy will be able to receive it.
Wow, that's a big deal. Okay, so what have the outcomes been so far? Have you guys tested this drug? Is it available yet?
Okay, this drug is in clinical research now. We have already tested it in several patients. Up until now, it looks safe, well tolerated by the older patients that currently cannot receive the original chemotherapy.
Okay.
And we are also having some very promising efficacy results in those patients. So we are hoping to extend this phase 1-2A study that is currently running. And at the beginning of next year, we are hoping to start a phase 2 study, which would run in the US and in Israel in parallel.
So what is the time frame then? When would we be able to access this drug if we were to need it?
During clinical studies, patients both in Israel and the US would be able to get the drug.
Okay.
From the beginning of next year. In Israel, it's already available in one center in Rambam Hospital, and it would also be possibly available in other hospitals soon. To the market, it will take some time, although we hope that our clinical development process would be shorter than usual.
So what do you think some of the biggest effects of this drug is going to have just on the overall population?
Okay, let's say for acute myelocytic leukemia, for example, the 5-year survival of these patients is something like 40%. For patients that are below 60 years of age. However, for patients which are 60 years of age and older, the 5-year survival currently is between 5 and 10%.
Wow.
Because they cannot be treated with the more good or toxic chemotherapy drugs. By using our Astarabine product, we hope to treat those patients as well and then to equalize the prospect or the chances of the elderly population for 5-year survival, like the patients younger than 60.
So this is a big deal. How did you get involved with the company, and kind of how did you guys decide to target this issue?
The founder of the company, Dr. Stella Gangrenovic, thought about the idea of how to target chemotherapy to cancer cells. Based on this technology, we have several products. Astarabine that I have been talking about is only our lead product. But the idea is to use knowledge that is out there and known. For example, in this case of acute myelocytic leukemia and acute leukocytic leukemia, it is known that cancer cells are lacking a substance that is very much required for their proliferation. And we are providing the cells, we are linking this substance to the chemotherapy. Therefore, the cancer cells suck this drug in, and then in the cell, this molecule is released from the chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy now can kill the target cells.
So, what are your plans for the future? Where do you see I don't want to say the cancer market, but the treatments that exist for cancer being in 10 years from now?
There are a lot of drugs being tested in the field, especially in the hematology field, because there is a huge unmet need for patients for new treatments. By the way, the drugs that we are designing the prodrug for is out there in the market for the last 30 years, because it's the most effective drug for this kind of malignancies. And there are a lot of new drugs tested and currently in clinical trials, and we hope that our drug would be one of those leading drugs for the next years.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming in. It sounds like you guys have created something that will have a big impact on the world. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Israel is on a mission to improve quality services for the Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem and fight terrorism. And the Jerusalem police have just announced plans to deploy at least 1,200 new officers in the area. Israel has officially annexed East Jerusalem over the Green Line, but the move has not been recognized by the international community. Today, East Jerusalem's Arab neighborhoods suffer from poor infrastructure and neglect, and the area has been virtually unserved by Israeli police. Palestinian residents even refuse to vote in Jerusalem's municipal elections, so that they don't show recognition of Israel's annexation of East Jerusalem, which they hope will be the future capital of a Palestinian state. Now the Jerusalem police force is stepping up to strengthen the rule of Israeli law through Jerusalem and enhance police services to all residents of the city. There's been a major disconnect between the East and the West, largely because of the lack of a police presence in East Jerusalem. Now the Jerusalem police will open 6 new stations that will primarily focus on fighting rampant crime in the East, while also launching counter-terrorism efforts against extremists living in the area. 1,200 new officers will also be deployed to the region, and the plan is expected to cost around $262 million over its first 4 years. There are so many different programs that offer special trips to Israel for Jewish youth. But what about young people of different faiths that want to get to know the Holy Land? Luckily, the organization Israel Teen Fellowship offers opportunities for young people of all backgrounds to visit Israel. Joining us in the studio today is Benny Levin, whose tour company organizes trips for participants of the Israel Teen Fellowship. Thanks so much for coming in.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. So I'm excited to hear about these trips that you put together. Can you tell us about what the trip you're working on right now is?
So the whole idea started with Michael Dorfman from New York, who was a teacher with a Jewish school and came to Israel with the Jewish school. And after visiting the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of the students came out and said, "Wow, I didn't know that Israel is also holy for the Christians," in the level that we actually studied about in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And Michael came with an idea, let's put, we have so many conversations along the trip, but from only one perspective. So how great it can be if we can put kids from all different faiths, and they all gonna join on one bus, kind of building bridges between all the cultures and faiths. And we just finished a trip with 10 participants, with a girl from China, with a girl from Ramat HaSharon, with a Palestinian kid from the village of Isawiya in East Jerusalem, with Christian and Jewish participants from different states in the USA. And the outcome of this trip was unbelievable, even more than I expected when I took this project together with Michael. It just come out with unbelievable results.
So tell us about that. I mean, what were some of the reactions that you got from the participants actually taking part in the trip? And then obviously people from the side, from other tour companies who are looking and saying, hold on, this is different than what we typically organize.
So I think it's too small yet to get any feedback from other tour companies, but I look on it as a project of that like it's a dream. It's a dream of Michael that I'm sharing with in a way that we are here to run a marathon. How can we as small people, Michael was always thinking about what I can do as a person that's not living in Israel. And in my thought, working a lot in education is how can I do a change when I'm only a small part of the whole system. So we actually feel that this is the right way to do it. It's like to run a marathon in order to build bridges between faiths. Because at the end, all the kids want the same experience. They had fun, they went paragliding, they went hiking. But on the other hand, they meet with a refugee from Darfur that's seeking asylum in Israel for 8 years. They're meeting with, they're going to have dinner with the Palestinian kid that was on our trip that invited us to his parents' home in Isawiya. That's something that trips don't do.
This is a youth trip, but it seems like something that could apply to older people as well, you know? There's a lot of...
So it's
in
very...
other words, how can I go on this trip?
So it's very funny because 2 days before we got an email from the mother of the girl from Ramat HaSharon that was... And she wrote to me and to Michael that this program was so effective on her girl that she thinks that this program needs to be for adults as well. I think, like we said before, as small part of a bigger picture. We started with the youth because we believe that, I think Michael and me, we share the same belief that we need to start with early age because
education, yeah.
Because of education. It's like when you come into a place where there is no horns and no tails to a person that believes differently than you, and you find that the moments of joy so amazing, you suddenly realize that the barriers and the walls are much smaller. So yeah, it's in the plan to do trips, and we're definitely going to invite you when we're going to have one.
Absolutely, I would love to take part in that. Sounds amazing. So tell me, what are your plans for the future? When is the next trip going to be set up? I know you're still figuring out whether or not you'll have an adult trip as well, but is there going to be another youth trip in the near future?
So Israel Teen Fellowship going to have next year, hopefully maybe even 2 trips, two rounds, basically. So it can fit for more kids to come, but definitely there is one trip that's going to happen next year for youth from 14 to 18. And it's really open to everybody.
And you have to pay, I'm assuming?
So there is a system of scholarship because we have people and some money that we get from different organizations, and hopefully maybe after this interview we're going to get a little bit more help from more places, because this is our hope. You know, like for me, I'm going to have my first kid, and I know we are not going away, and our neighbors are not going away. So we should find a way to live together and to really success together and grow as a unique country that have all these faiths.
Absolutely.
So,
well, it sounds like what you guys have created is amazing, and it's helping us go on that path. And let me know when I can participate in the future.
Wonderful. When we're going to have this adult trip, you will get an invitation.
I'll be the first on my bus. Yes. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
An Israeli aid worker has just won a major award for his work to provide relief to communities in need all over the world. The 29-year-old Israeli will be presented with the annual prize at a ceremony next month, alongside 5 other under 30 humanitarians being honored for their own achievements. According to the center, all of the honorees serve as role models in transforming communities and bringing about positive change in the world. Israel was founded in 2001 and is renowned for its immediate response to devastating crises across the globe. Israeli teams were first sent to help survivors of the Rwandan genocide, and Israel was also the first international team on the ground in Haiti. It's not only third world nations who are the recipients of Israeli help. Israel also offered badly needed assistance to Japan and even the United States in the aftermath of the devastation wreaked by the Katrina and Sandy hurricanes, Colorado floods, and tornadoes in Arkansas. Glick is a dual Israeli-Canadian citizen who serves as Israel's chief operating officer. He manages the organization's daily operations from Tel Aviv. He'll be receiving his award at a ceremony commemorating Muhammad Ali, the prize-winning American boxer who passed away this past June after his last battle with Parkinson's disease. In addition to his athletic career, Ali was a longtime philanthropist, honored for his charitable work.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. It's summer, which means the Israeli beaches are packed, so today's word is shizuf, which means tan in Hebrew. Here in Tel Aviv, the beach is just around the corner, so it's not uncommon to see Israelis laying out in the sun, even on weekdays. I mean, why not try to work on your shizuf before you head to work? In Israel, everybody's favorite color is arad, or bronze, so it's not surprising that Israelis are so excited about an Israeli athlete taking home a bronze medal yesterday in the Olympics. Just be careful how much you go out in the sun because you don't want to ruin your skin and your health. After all, the word shizuf comes from the word shazif, which means prune, because the longer you stay in the sun, the more wrinkled you get. Not a nice image, right? So here's the bottom line. If you want to enjoy the beach and the sun and get a shizuf, just make sure you use proper sunscreen the entire time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is just around the corner. Thursday is expected to be partly cloudy with a high of 87 degrees. The sun will be back out and strong on Friday with a high of 88. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.81 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.